Hello, hello, and welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. This podcast is a place where we explore what it really means to live with intention, to lead from the heart, and to walk through life with a deeper connection to mind, body, and soul. And whether I'm sitting down with a guest or just sharing what I'm learning in real time, my hope is that you'll hear something that invites you back to yourself. So take a deep breath. Let's drop in to today's conversation. And I'm joined today with Fred Simpson. And he's here to talk about life after losing his wife of 46 years and how his decision to stay busy online to quote unquote connect brought him face to face with himself and having to confront grief, learning that he couldn't bypass grief. Fred, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brenda.
It's great having you here. And so, if our listeners know that we just dive into the authentic conversation about that pivotal moment in your life that shifted something so deeply that it changed your life. So, can you kind of go back to that moment, go back to losing your wife and what was going on? What were you feeling in that moment? And shortly after
Uh,
that, it's a big one, I know.
yeah, and the impact was more than I thought at the moment because you want to be strong for the rest of the kids
Mm,
until the service was over and you sit alone and you start thinking and that's a bad thing. It's not thinking the right thoughts. It's all negative stuff and it's going to hit you.
mm.
And it hit me is to say a lot of stuff here that I told the kids that hey, it's part of life. It isn't.
What isn't
It,
part of life?
the grief that goes through
Mm,
is your everyday living and being happy, and that's a pursuit of being happy and living life. And we were married 46 years, and all the kids and you've got a lot of negative sides, and kids have hurt, get different illnesses and stuff like that, but you deal with it and it all comes up. And but the death of my wife, who was actually the magnet for everybody,
mm,
is a huge impact, and a huge impact to me to say, what am I going to do? I'm really at the point, and was at the point, where we were going to enjoy retirement together and go places, do things, and out of our house in Iowa, and but it became a physical limitation for her, and eventually that was it. At the age of 90. Well, I didn't ever think about that and everything that came up, and taking care of all the things, and through that and that transformation, I came to rely on some people that I didn't really know before. You
mm.
know, I knew them and knew their name and stuff, but not to really know them. And one of them is God, but he came along and about pastor and a couple other friends that you can communicate with, and they all have like grief that they've gone through. And one of them even passed a book about grief to me, and which was essential for me to deal with and have the right tools to deal with things. And it came down to paralleling a path that I've gone through, for the last 34 years. There's anonymity, but I can say it, is I'm 34 years clean and sober. And
Congratulations.
with the help of God and the 12-step program, and go through the fifth step, and what I'll say is nothing like anyone else who, after that happened, I didn't have any desire or have not since at all to
Mm.
drink. And so God took that away and gave us our life to live together, but then the everyday and the grief that happens, and the grief that happens with everybody around you that I really didn't notice before, until it happened to me. And then I had to go through those steps and say, you can't let grief sit there and use if you make it yourself feel guilty about it and hurt because you want it that way, that's not the way to be. You've
Yeah.
got to get over that, and you've got to get the proper tools to work that, and to have the proper tools. And like I say, the book Dark Clouds, Deep Mercy that I read and went through, I came to the realization that almost parallel paths of the grief with AA and Alcoholics Anonymous and being clean and sober is that all I had to do was look and understand that God was here for me. I didn't have to shout for him. I didn't have to look for him. It was just like the footprints in the sand, and where God is carrying the man, and he says, God, why hast thou forsaken me? And he says, I haven't, my son. I'm carrying you. And I came to the realization that all I have to do is ask for his help, and his help can transform any of the pain and the tears and the heavy grief that you start feeling, and transform it into thinking about the joy and the fun things you've done, the kids that you created, and the happy times of the family you all had. We'd all get together and we'd play cards. That was it. Besides eat, I mean,
Yeah.
we all ate a lot. But is to get together and do that, and like I said, my wife was the magnet, and she was the pivot for the whole family.
Yeah.
And she would, and they would come and come to see her, and I just happened to be there, one of those things. But that didn't bother me. But the idea is now, after the fact, there's part of that grief is saying these kids and stuff, they need to deal with that also. But I can't force anybody to deal with it.
No.
You can just offer tools, as just like my book and the book I mentioned before is, we need to have the tools. And what you're doing, Brenda, is giving people the tools to listen and help permeate, give you an understanding of the problems and how to get over them, how to deal with them, how to move forward positively and not negative, and getting further deeper into grief is not solution. It's not at all. And to celebrate life and understand that the past and what we had together, and the memories and pictures. I mean, I tell you, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures. Is just putting those together and making sure we've got those to remember.
Yeah.
And that's part of the trigger, though, too, Brenda.
It
Because
is. I'm walking through that with my mom. It is. And yet it's also a trigger, but it's also necessary.
yeah,
It's
because it
necessary.
like Google and the photos. they automatically put together photo albums and they pop it up to you or send an email to you. And if you don't watch it, the first couple of times it hit me hard
Yeah.
and saying, oh man, here it is. But then just like you say, the process is you got to celebrate that. You celebrate those moments, and the pictures were taken, to remember those moments and celebrate them, not have pain because you remember it. It's not a painful moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's happy.
Yep.
It's fun, and people getting together to share that, and just like after the fact and getting through this, it's grief, whether it's alcoholism, loss of a loved one. Uh, you've got to communicate it, and the best way is with community
Mm.
and community sharing that, and it's like I'm finally getting back into AA groups and sharing and offering the third side of the triangle on AA is service,
Mm.
and you communicate to people, and the biggest thing, and in the 12 steps and in the group is sharing.
Yeah. Well, I
You
believe
share,
that sharing is a huge part of healing.
right? You share your life story,
Yeah.
and that's not that isn't a clean fun thing.
No.
It's a lot of dirt and
Yep.
and pain,
Yep.
but you share that in order that people can understand not just their own, not just their own pain and suffering, is that they can look at themselves and say, hey, there's somebody else is going through this. I'm not by myself. I did
Absolutely.
I didn't get here by myself, and I'm not going to get out of here without help.
Yeah.
And the big key is help.
Yeah. I want to ask you in this year. So you said your wife, she's been gone for a year now, right? What has been the hardest for you in this first year?
Probably just living with myself, and
Mm.
dealing with myself, and not having somebody to ask about it. And after 46 years, to say, hey, what do you think? Or
Mm.
somebody just sit down and play cards with that we do all the time, which was our thing. Have coffee in the morning, play cards, and talk.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's tough. And is just figuring out how my day is going to go without the other person in it, and say, my big thing right now, Brenda, is I do lists, and it's my things to do, my TTD list. Besides being the older and helping my memory along, it helps me get through the day to day and say, okay, this is what I need to do today, and this is what I need to accomplish today. Otherwise, you're just going to sit there and you're just going to say, wait a minute, I really don't feel like doing nothing, or I feel like maybe going to sleep.
So I'm going to ask, I'm curious, what is your belief when you, because I think this is going to be a generational thing, a generational difference here. When you don't feel like doing anything today, what do you allow yourself?
Uh, I've got some leg issues, so I kind of bend on that with the doctors to say, hey, I get my feet up about an hour and a half a day. And my sister will harp on me about it. But uh, I only allow that much because I don't go to bed early. I always get up, usually 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and don't go to sleep until 9:30 or 10 o'clock. I've also, quit smoking and lost 120 pounds, and so I have more energy, and I can keep that energy going. And then that's part of the day to day is say, okay, where am I at with my list? Have I got
Yeah.
that list done yet?
Yeah. So your list
And,
really becomes a motivator for you of getting
yeah,
things done. That's a motivator for you.
but that kind of goes back to history with my father. My father used to tell me every day, we've got to get three things done today.
Mm.
And so that was always, part of my life.
Yep.
So I think through my professional career and working, I developed that list, and then upon retirement and getting older, it becomes more important too.
Well,
But
and it
also,
continues to serve you.
yes,
Yeah.
and the fact is that it gives incentive and drive to keep
Yeah.
moving on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
right now, I've finished the book. At 69, turned 70, and I wrote a book. Right, here's this construction guy. I wrote a book. I can look on it on a South Korean website or a Chinese website and say, that's my book. At
That's
least
so amazing,
somebody.
Fred.
I just got to get people to buy it. But is to get those accomplishments and at least get accomplishments back. And then I'm past that point to say, I'm healthy enough and everything. I need to go back to work.
Mm. Mm.
And really, this day and age, with all the projects that are out there, I mean, it's more than I've ever seen my whole lifetime. And they're needing people with experience, and that's one thing I do have.
Yeah.
And so I've got this job lined up, and I'll go back out and build something, and that'll be an accomplishment. But
Yeah.
it'll be by myself. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's got to do that and get
But
over there.
it's fueling your purpose. It's fueling your purpose for continuing to move on, to continuing to live.
Right, and not be stagnant is
Right. Yeah.
and that's no kind of life, and just uh, being able to accomplish things and pass things on, and
Yeah.
whether it's your professional experience or it's your personal experience and alcoholism or grief or whatever you've learned to help people.
Yep.
And it's just been thrown that way to me. There's people that have come in after I was in the hospital and came back out. There's, certain home hospital care people, nurses that come in, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden they've lost people. And
Hmm.
so that person becomes a different conversation.
Yeah.
And it's a helpful part of the healing process, not just physically but mentally.
Absolutely.
And God will throw those things at you no matter what. He knows when you're ready.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm curious, Fred, how did your body respond to grief?
Well, part of it, I had something that I was way overweight, and I fell. And part of that was, and then trying to go through the funeral and get everything done.
Mm.
And I said, well, there's no way. I don't need to use food as part of that crux and eat. I only need one meal a day, and in the last 8 months, I've lost 120 pounds. So that has helped drive it too. Is say, how am I going to do this and make sure I've got the nutrition that I need and
Hmm.
do this correctly? And with seeing doctors and everything, I've got the proper guidance to do that. I'm at a pace right now to lose another 40 pounds, and I'll be at my weight goal. So
That's great. That's great.
that's another thing on the list to say.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
get a
But it's taking care of yourself, right? And
yes.
that's important too. That's the part of the body taking care of this body that we have for this life. That's part of
There's
what
no.
we have to do.
I don't drink now. I don't smoke, and I eat sensibly. and don't have all these snacks. So
Yeah.
I'm a pretty dull guy, except I did write a book.
Yeah. Yeah. So now let's go move on to, we talked about, the mind, your emotions. You talked about how quickly you can go into the negative, right? I mean, I think that's just human experience. That's part of, I think that's just how we're just innately know how to do that, go negative in our mind. And we talked about your body taking care of it. So let's just talk about, your inner knowing and your soul's guidance. How did your soul help you in this last year with your grief? Or what did you learn?
Well, I learned that you can trust your soul. You know,
Mm,
once you've turned it over, and the first rule is turn it over to God's will, and that's just like a parallel path. Like I said, with alcoholism, you turn it over to God's will, not mine,
mm,
because mine is what got me in trouble, and mine is what would bring me down into the pain and the hurt and stay there. But it needs to be God's will to carry through. And with that, and the soul, you know, thrives, and I'm able to go to church and have community at church, and meet people and share with people depending on what the situation is, whether it's alcohol, whether it's grief, whether it's, you know, just life, and and live it and share it, and because I've got a lot of experience to share.
yeah. Fred, would you say that your ability to connect on a deeper level with people is vastly different now than you were before?
Yeah, Brenda, I allow myself to do that now, and it's just kind of like the same assumption or the same ethic that I used before, is not to become distracted.
Mm,
Well, now I need that distraction, and that distraction in the right way is so much better, and it helps me as much as it helps somebody else. You know, and that's the best part of it. You don't you don't understand how much you need the help until you help somebody else that helps you.
yeah, 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 yeah. I so get that.
I've
So,
just got to right now. I've got to, give back, and I've got to give back, and it's grief too. I mean, alcoholism is 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 very, very, the worst part of our life has been gone through. Let's say down to the depth,
yeah,
and and uh, and a lot of stories out there, and it's a lot of grief out there,
yeah,
and I need to give the service part of it back and help other people, as well as, hey, as long as I'm in that group and not just life, I'm gonna come across these people, and I'm gonna I'm gonna help them if they'll allow me to. I mean, you
yeah,
can't force it. You can't force that on anybody. That's what I found. Is
correct.
it's just like being an ex-smoker. You can't force it on anybody,
Right.
or alcoholic. I mean, you're still an alcoholic, not an ex, but you've got to let people attack it in their own way, and assimilate it in their own way, and understand it in their own way.
Absolutely. But you also have to, um, I have learned in my journey that I have to accept people where they are, where they're at. So, I told you in our pre-conversation that I lost my 20-year-old son. He died
Mhm.
from cocaine laced fentanyl. I had to learn to accept him with his addiction, in his addiction, and learn to accept and love him and be in relationship with him, even though I didn't like his choices, right? And that's such a huge part of this connection and being in relationship with people is this accepting them where they are and knowing that it's their journey. And my nagging or my forcing or my, it wasn't going until he chose, nothing was going to change. And so you are spot on there with that. I completely agree with you.
And I'll just elaborate on that as part of your story. And I found something so heartwarming that I mentioned my son's girlfriend, and she had a son that is in high school, and he actually last year he died of fentanyl overdose. They brought him back with Narcan with 2 hits, brought him back to life,
Mm,
and his life was forever changed. He accepted God, and
mm,
it's so heartwarming now. Is just their life together, and then
yeah.
he's got a girlfriend. They just graduated, and he sent me prom pictures, and he said, Papa Fred, I'm going to come see you, and
Ah,
I
that's
and
beautiful.
bring my girlfriend. I said, just that transformation is so wonderful that then there is a God.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. He's
Mm-hmm.
lucky. He
Yeah,
was given a second chance, and it sounds like, he's making the best of it, and that's beautiful.
yeah, and it was
Yeah.
fraction of a second.
Yeah. Yeah. So, last question, Fred. So, if there's someone who's listening to this in a similar moment right now, sitting in grief, whatever the grief is from, and just feeling uncertain and unclear and all those things, stagnant. We use the word stagnant, right? Feeling, what do I do? Da da da. What would you gently offer them from your own experience?
Is always, I mean, there's always certain tools, and books are tools, and communication, or in this case, a podcast,
Mm,
is to hit it square on. Don't try to hide it. Don't try to delve in it and keep repeating it, because that isn't gonna. You've got to have tools to work it, and that's why I wrote my book: is give people tools that they can work with, so
yeah.
they can conquer something, and that's what the Bible is, right? Bible gives us tools to work with things, and it just depends on the person. Some people it can be the books, some people it can be a podcast, some people it can be just maybe going to church if they could, and just, or even a comedy, a movie.
Mm, mm,
There's different things that can bring us out of that. And I like, some of the old classic movies are great. They don't make them like that anymore.
right.
But those kind of things bring us out of it, and hey, heck, even a drama, that
Mm,
puts a light condition, then you can realize that just like AA, just like grief and everything else, as everybody goes through that, we aren't alone. We aren't alone. We don't have to be alone. And just thinking back on my wife Nancy is to say she'd tell it like it is. you know, get off your ass and go do something. Something like that. But and stay active and have goals set, long
I
term,
love
short
that.
term, any kind.
I heard find what works for you. Find people who you can connect with and share with, and don't do it alone.
Right, right,
And find something that motivates you to help move you forward.
right.
So good.
That's very good.
Well,
Hmm.
those were your words. I just paraphrased. So, Fred, this has been a truly honest conversation, and I thank you so much. My intention for this podcast is to provide hope and inspiration, but it's also it's a quiet invitation for us to remember our truth and to trust our path because our soul knows what we're here to do. And I think we've done that today. So, Fred, thank you so much for showing up with such openness and presence.
And hope.
Yes, we've provided the hope today. So,
Mhm.
for those listening, friends, if this conversation stirred something in within you, I invite you to take a moment to pause and reflect and ask, what was in this for me? And then go journal about it or go share that new awareness with a trusted friend. Embody what you've learned about yourself, embody what you've taken from this that you know is true for you. You will be able to find more about Fred and his book in the links in the show notes and connect with him or myself. And if you're stuck in the throes of grief, I encourage you to reach out. So until next time, keep leaning into your truth and honoring your journey. This is Brenda Stott Tomlinson, and you're listening to Mind, Body, Soul Mastery.